T-minus 12 minutes. The air in the windowless room was cold, tasting of ozone and stale coffee. Three monitors cast a sterile blue glow on the face of the man they called Kale. He didn't move, his fingers steepled before him, a statue of calm in the heart of a digital hurricane. Around him, the low hum of server racks was the only sound, a constant thrumming that vibrated through the concrete floor. Nix, Kale's voice was a low murmur, cutting through the silence. Status. From the shadows across the room, a female voice, sharp and quick as a keystroke, replied. DNS propagation is at 98% globally. We're a ghost in the machine, Kale, a flicker in the data stream. In 12 minutes, Meridian Bancorp will be live on every financial network from New York to Tokyo. Maya? Kale spoke into a nearly invisible headset mic. Position is green, came the reply, a whisper laced with the faint sound of city traffic. I'm in the cafe across from Atherid Capital's data hub. Their head of security just ordered his third espresso. He's not going anywhere. Kale allowed himself a thin, humorless smile. Good. Remember the window. Once the transfer is initiated, we have 3 minutes to confirm and 6 minutes to scrub. After that, Meridian Bancorp ceases to exist. It never existed. Understood. Maya's voice was steady. See you on the other side. The plan was audacious, a piece of digital legerdemain so bold it bordered on insanity. They weren't hacking a bank. They were creating one. For 12 minutes, Meridian Bancorp would be a legitimate registered financial institution on the global network. Long enough to receive a wire transfer, long enough to vanish without a trace, taking the money with them. The target wasn't just any fund. It was Ethelred Capital, a hedge fund that made its billions not on smart bets, but on predatory algorithms that manipulated markets and ruined smaller companies. They were a tumor on the global economy, and Kale and his team were the surgeons. The specific account they were targeting held over $300 million, the illicit profits from a scheme that had bankrupted a pension fund. They weren't stealing, they were reallocating. T-minus 10 minutes, Nix announced, her fingers flying across a custom-built keyboard, lines of green code scrolling across her multiple screens. The digital infrastructure is solid. Our registration credentials are flawless, forged from the dormant shell of a real acquisition that Aethelred itself abandoned last year. The irony is delicious. Kale's eyes flicked to a central monitor showing a stylized map of the world, with points of light representing the major financial exchanges. A new light was about to blink on. The transfer request is queued. Ready to go, Nix confirmed. The moment Meridian Bancorp appears on the network, the automated request will be sent from one of their own shell companies. It will look like an internal consolidation. Their own system will approve it. That was the beauty of it. They were using Ethelred's own greed and complexity against them. The fund was so vast, so convoluted, with so many moving parts, that a few million moving from one digital pocket to another wouldn't even register. It would be lost in the noise. T-minus 8 minutes. Kale leaned forward, his gaze fixed on the countdown clock in the corner of his screen. Every second felt like an eternity. He thought of the months of preparation. Nix building the bank's digital skeleton from scratch, a perfect forgery. Maya infiltrating Athelred's corporate culture, gathering intel on their security protocols, their routines, their blind spots. And himself, orchestrating the entire operation, identifying the weakness, the single thread they could pull to unravel the whole tapestry. Suddenly, a new window popped up on Nix's main screen. It was a stream of raw data, an unexpected anomaly. Hold on, she said, her voice losing its casual edge for the first time. We've got a ping. From where? Kale asked, his body tensing. It's Ethelred's security node. It's not a standard scan. It's active. It's like they're looking for something specific. Can you mask us? I'm trying. It's a new algorithm, something I haven't seen before. It's probing the network edges, looking for newly registered entities. Kale's heart hammered against his ribs. This wasn't in the plan. This was a random variable, a butterfly flapping its wings in their perfect storm. Kill the propagation. Abort. We can't, Nick shot back, her voice tight with urgency. It's too late. The DNS requests are already in the wild. Stopping them now would be like screaming in a library. We have to ride it out. T-minus 6 minutes. The ping from Aethelred grew more aggressive. It was a digital bloodhound, and it was catching their scent. Nix's fingers were a blur, her brow furrowed in concentration. She was building a firewall on the fly, a digital smokescreen to hide their creation. "They're fast," she muttered. "Whoever is on the other end of this is good." "Can they identify us?" Cale asked, his voice dangerously quiet. "Not identify us, but they can flag Meridian Bancorp as anomalous. If they do that before the transfer completes, the request will be routed for manual review. We'll be dead in the water." On the monitor, the progress bar for the DNS propagation hit 100%. At that exact moment, a new icon appeared on the world map. Meridian Bancorp was online. The clock had started. The transfer request fired. "Nix," Cale prompted. "It's in the system," she reported. Ethelred's own system received the request. It's validating the credentials now. The Ethelred probe was still hammering at their digital walls. Nix's smokescreen was holding, but just barely. It was a race, Ethelred's algorithm against their forged credentials, the security analyst against their getaway driver. "It's asking for a secondary authentication," Nix said, a note of panic creeping into her voice. "A two-factor protocol. It's new. It wasn't in the intel Maya gathered." "Can you bypass it?" "Give me a minute." "No, give me 30 seconds. T-minus 4 minutes. The money was in limbo, trapped in a digital purgatory between the sender and the receiver. If they couldn't provide the second factor of authentication, the transfer would fail. Worse, the failed attempt would trigger every alarm Ethelred had. "Maya," Cale barked into his headset. "We have a problem. A two-factor authentication protocol just came online. It's tied to a physical device. We need the code." "What device?" Maya's voice was calm, but he could hear the tension underneath. "I don't know. Nix, what's the device ID?" Nix read off a string of alphanumeric characters. "It's registered to a senior VP. Name's Croft." "Croft," Maya repeated. "I know him. He's on the executive floor. He never leaves his desk." "Then you need to get to his desk," Cale said. "Now." There was a pause, filled only by the sound of Maya's breathing and the distant wail of a siren. "That's complicated. The executive floor requires biometric access. I can't get in." "Then find another way." Cale's voice was like ice. "The transfer fails in 3 minutes. Find the code." T-minus 3 minutes. Nix was still fighting off the probe, but it was losing interest, its primary function seemingly complete. It had probably already flagged Meridian Bancorp. They were running on borrowed time. "I'm in," Nix suddenly exclaimed. "I found a backdoor in the two-factor protocol. A legacy vulnerability. I can force a reset, but it will send a notification to Croft's phone. He'll know something is wrong." "Do it," Cale commanded. "It's our only shot." As Nix initiated the reset, Cale watched the clock. 2 minutes. The money was still frozen. Maya was silent. He could only imagine what she was doing, what risk she was taking. He had to trust her. He had to trust his team. Suddenly, a new message appeared on Cale's screen. It was a single line of text from an encrypted channel. Got it. It was from Maya. "Nix, now!" Cale yelled. Nix typed in the 6-digit code Maya had sent. The screen flickered. The status of the transfer changed from pending to complete. The money was theirs. "T-minus 1 minute," Nix said, her voice shaking with a mixture of relief and exhaustion, initiating the scrub sequence. Meridian Bancorp began to dismantle itself. The digital bank that had been so meticulously built was now being deconstructed with the same speed and precision. Server records were deleted, registration entries were wiped, DNS entries were corrupted. It was erasing itself from existence. T-minus 10, 9, 8. The probe from Ethelred returned, this time with a vengeance. It had realized it had been tricked, but it was too late. It was hammering on the door of an empty house. 3, 2, 1. The icon representing Meridian Bancorp on the world map flickered and vanished. The server racks in the room fell silent. The countdown clock hit 0. 12 minutes. It had all taken 12 minutes. Cale leaned back in his chair, the tension draining out of him, leaving him feeling hollow. They had done it. $300 million, transferred to a dozen untraceable crypto wallets scattered across the globe. "Nix, burn the local hardware," he instructed. "Maya, exfiltrate. See you at the rendezvous." He stood up and looked around the cold, empty room. Soon, this place would be stripped bare, every piece of equipment melted down or destroyed. All evidence of their operation would be gone. It was as if they were never here. As he walked out the door, he allowed himself one final thought. They had pulled off the impossible. They had robbed a bank that only existed for 12 minutes. But he also knew that what they had done today was not just a heist. It was a statement, a declaration of a new kind of war, fought not with guns, but with code. And he had a feeling that Aethelred Capital and the rest of the world would not take it lying down. The rendezvous point was a 24-hour laundromat in a forgotten corner of the city, the kind of place where people went to disappear. Cale pushed a cart full of nondescript clothes into a corner, loading a washer with practiced, meaningless motions. He was just another face in the fluorescent haze. A few minutes later, a woman with tired eyes and a hoodie pulled up entered, tossing a bag of laundry into the machine next to his. It was Maya. She didn't look at him, just stared at the spinning drum of her machine. "Trouble?" Cale asked, his voice low. Croft's assistant got suspicious, Maya murmured, not moving her lips. "I had to create a pretext, a fake email from his wife about a sick kid. It got me the two-factor code from his phone while he was distracted, but the assistant might remember my face." "Plausible deniability," Cale said. "You were a concerned temp from another floor, helping out. It's buried under 100 other office interactions today. You're clean." "I hope so," she said, the words barely audible. Across the room, a young man with a laptop bag sat at a small plastic table, sipping a coffee. Nix. She gave a subtle, almost imperceptible nod. The hardware was ash. The digital trail was gone. The team was safe, for now. "The funds are in the wallets." Nix's voice came through a tiny earbud Cale wore, disguised as a hearing aid. 12 separate wallets, just as planned. They're dormant, waiting for the final laundering protocol. Cale dropped a coin into the machine. The cycle began. "Phase 2, he said quietly. "Initiate the first transfer. Move it from the wallets to the mixers. Let's start breaking it up." "Executing," Nix's voice replied. They had done it. The adrenaline began to recede, replaced by a weary, hollowed-out satisfaction. They had struck a blow against a corrupt system, a digital David against a Goliath of finance. But as Cale watched the soapy water swirl around the clothes, a familiar knot of anxiety tightened in his stomach. It was never over. Not really. 300 miles away, on the 84th floor of the Aethelred Capital Tower, Elias Thorne stared at a blank screen. His office was minimalist to the point of being sterile. White walls, a single black desk, and a panoramic view of the city that he never looked at. The only decoration was a monitor that displayed a constant stream of global market data. A knock on the door. "Mr. Thorne?" Thorne didn't turn. "What is it, Marcus?" "It's the Meridian Bancorp anomaly. The final report is in." Thorne swiveled in his chair, his face a mask of cold intelligence. He was in his late 40s, with sharp features and eyes that seemed to analyze everything, even the air between people. "And?" "It's gone," Marcus said, shifting nervously. "The registration, the server logs, the DNS entries, all of it. It's like it was never there. But the transfer, the 312 million, it's gone. Our system confirms it was sent and received." "You're saying we were robbed by a ghost," Thorne stated, his voice flat. "Yes, sir. A very sophisticated, very well-funded ghost." Thorne stood up and walked to the window, finally looking out at the city lights. "No, not a ghost. Ghosts leave behind cold spots. This left behind a signature, a flaw. Find it. We've run every diagnostic, sir. The system is clean." "Then you're not looking hard enough," Thorne said, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "They built a perfect forgery. But forgeries are never perfect. There's always a brushstroke out of place, a pigment that doesn't match the era. Find the brushstroke, Marcus. Find the single line of code that doesn't belong. Find the moment their perfect crime became imperfect." He turned back to his desk, his mind already racing. He wasn't just a security chief. He was a hunter. And someone had just wandered into his forest. Back in the laundromat, Cale's earbud chirped. It was Nix, her voice tight with a new kind of tension. "Problem," she said. "Wallet number 7. It's frozen." Cale's body went rigid. "What do you mean, frozen?" "Just what I said. I initiated the transfer to the mixer, and it was rejected. The exchange has placed a hold on the wallet. They've flagged it for suspicious activity." "That's impossible," Cale hissed. "The wallets are clean. They're funded through untraceable tunnels." "Not this one," Nix replied. "Someone knew what to look for. They put a watch on it the moment the funds landed." Maya stopped pretending to fold clothes. Her eyes met Cale's for a fraction of a second. The alarm was silent, but it was screaming in their heads. "How much is in that wallet?" Cale asked. 26 million, Nick said. "Can you get it out?" "No, the flag is from the top tier of the exchange. It's locked down until a manual review, which means they'll ask for identity verification. We can't provide it." Cale's mind raced. They had lost control of a piece of their prize. More importantly, they had left a breadcrumb. A $26 million breadcrumb. "Abort the other transfers," Cale commanded. "Halt everything, now." "Cale, if we stop, the rest of the funds could get flagged too," Nix protested. "If we move them now, we're painting a target on every wallet we own," Cale shot back. "They found one. That means they can find the others. We go dark. All of it." He slammed the washer door shut. The cycle was interrupted. The water stopped swirling. In the sudden quiet of the laundromat, the reality of their situation crashed down on them. The heist was a success, but the escape had just become a whole lot more complicated. They weren't just being chased by a corporation, they were being hunted by a ghost hunter, and he had already found their scent. The laundromat, once a symbol of sterile anonymity, now felt like a glass cage. Every whir of a dryer, every clink of a coin, sounded like a footstep in the dark. "Go," Cale said, his voice a low command. "Separately. Nix, you're first. Head west. Don't use your phone. Toss it in a river. Maya, east. Same protocol. I'll go north. New rendezvous point in 6 hours. I'll broadcast the location on the dead drop channel. If you don't hear from me, run. Don't look back." There were no arguments. The professional veneer had cracked, revealing the raw fear beneath. They were no longer hunters. They were prey. Nix packed her laptop bag with stiff, jerky movements and walked out without a backward glance. Maya followed a minute later, her hoodie pulled tighter, her face a mask of concentration. Cale waited, feeding more tokens into the washer, watching the clothes tumble in a pointless cycle. His mind was replaying every step of the plan, searching for the mistake. Where was the flaw? The brushstroke Thorne was looking for? He couldn't find it. The creation of Meridian Bancorp had been perfect. Its destruction should have been just as perfect. He left the laundromat and melted into the pre-dawn darkness, his movements economical and silent. He walked for miles, changing direction randomly, doubling back, always watching for a tail that wasn't there. The city was just starting to wake up, but Cale felt like he was walking through a graveyard. In his office, Elias Thorne watched a 3D visualization of the data stream on his monitor. It was a beautiful, intricate web of light representing billions of transactions, and in the middle of it was a black hole, a void where data had flowed and then simply ceased to be. "You see, Marcus?" Thorne said, pointing a slender finger at the screen. "They think they created a bank, but what they really created was an absence, a perfect spherical void in the data. The system doesn't like voids. It tries to fill them. It sends out pings, looking for what's missing. For 12 minutes, it got a response. Meridian Bancorp. Then, nothing." Marcus, his junior analyst, squinted at the screen. "So the flaw wasn't the bank itself. It was the deletion." "Precisely," Thorne said, a flicker of excitement in his cold eyes. "Their scrub sequence was too good. It was too clean. It didn't just delete the data. It annihilated it. It left a scar, a digital wound. I didn't find the bank by looking for it. I found it by looking for the place it used to be, the echo of its non-existence." He swiped his hand and the visualization zoomed in on the void. "And from that void I can trace the tendrils, the data that flowed in. Specifically, the transfer request. It came from a shell company, but that shell company was accessed through a VPN node, a private node, not a commercial service." "Can we trace the node?" Marcus asked, leaning forward. "Not directly," Thorne admitted. "But the node itself has a signature, a specific way of handling packet encryption. It's custom-built, elegant. I've seen this kind of work before. The architecture is familiar. It's the digital fingerprint of a ghost I've been hunting for years. An architect I call Cale." Thorne turned from the screen, his gaze distant. "He's good, the best I've ever seen, but he's arrogant. He believes his code is perfect. And that, Marcus, is the one flaw he can never erase." He walked back to his desk and picked up a secure phone. "Get me the head of physical security at Ethelred Tower. I need the access logs and security footage for the 84th floor for the past 48 hours. Specifically, anyone who accessed the executive suites without a permanent access badge." He was closing the net. He had the digital signature. Now he needed a face. Cale found the new safe house, a cramped, windowless basement apartment that smelled of damp and mildew. It was a step down from the laundromat, a sign of their desperation. He booted up a stripped-down laptop, the air-gapped machine he used only for the most secure communications. He sent the encrypted broadcast, a burst of data that would dissolve after being read once. Then he waited. One by one, they arrived. Maya looked pale, but her eyes were hard. Nyx looked like she hadn't slept. Her laptop case clutched to her chest like a shield. No one spoke for a long time. The silence was heavy with the weight of their failure. "It was the scrub sequence," Nyx finally said, her voice hollow. "I ran a diagnostic. It was too aggressive. It didn't just delete the entries. It created a null space, a data vacuum. It's like tearing a page out of a book instead of using whiteout. Anyone looking for the missing page would find the ragged edge." "So Thorne didn't find our bank," Cale summarized. "He found the hole it left behind." "He's not just a security suit," Maya added. "He's a hunter. He knew what to look for. And now he has our money," Cale said, his voice flat. 26 million, and a wallet ID. "It's worse than that," Nyx said, typing on her laptop. "I've been monitoring the dark web chatter. Thorne has put out a bounty, not on the money, on the wallet's signature. He's offering $1 million to anyone who can tie it to a person or a group. He's crowdsourcing the hunt." The room felt even colder. They weren't just being hunted by one man. They were being hunted by every hacker, every snitch, every desperate soul on the planet. "We have to abandon the rest of the funds," Cale said. "It's too hot." "We can't," Maya protested. "That's almost $300 million. That was the whole point." "The point was to get away with it," Cale shot back, his voice rising for the first time. "The point was to not get caught. The money is useless if we're in prison. We cut our losses. We walk away." "Walk away where?" Nyx asked, her voice trembling. "He has your digital signature, Cale. He knows who you are. It's only a matter of time before he puts a face to the name." As if on cue, Cale's laptop pinged. It was an alert from one of his automated deep web scanners. A keyword had been triggered. He opened the file. It was a fragment of a secure forum post from a private channel used by corporate intelligence firms. Subject: Cale. Physical description needed. Cross-referencing with Ethelred Tower security footage. Reward: substantial. Cale felt the blood drain from his face. Thorne wasn't just looking for a ghost in the machine anymore. He was looking for a ghost in the real world, and he was getting close. The words on the screen seemed to burn into Cale's retinas. Physical description needed. The hunt had spilled out of the digital realm and into the real world. The basement apartment, their supposed sanctuary, now felt like a trap. "He's not just trying to get the money back," Maya said, her voice barely a whisper. "He's coming for us." "He's coming for me," Cale corrected, his mind already calculating, discarding options. "My signature is on the code. He sees me as the architect. The others are just accessories." "That's not funny, Cale," Nyx snapped, her fear manifesting as anger. "I'm not laughing," he said, his voice dangerously calm. "Running is no longer an option. He has global resources. We have a laptop and a dwindling supply of canned beans. He'll find us. It's just a matter of time." "So what do we do?" Maya asked, her eyes fixed on him. "We just wait for him to kick down the door?" Cale stood up and began to pace the cramped space, his movements caged but purposeful. "Thorne is a hunter. He's analytical, methodical. He thinks he's smarter than us, that he can predict our next move. He's looking for a scared rabbit trying to burrow its way to safety." He stopped in the middle of the room, a new, dangerous light in his eyes. "So we don't give him a rabbit, we give him a wolf. We go on the offensive." Nyx looked at him like he'd lost his mind. "Offensive? How?" "He knows who you are. He has the entire corporate intelligence world looking for us." "He doesn't know who I am," Cale corrected. "He knows my work. He has a digital fingerprint, and that's exactly what we're going to give him. More of it. A perfect, beautiful, irresistible fingerprint." He looked at Nyx. "You said the flaw was the deletion, that it left a void. What if we do it again? But this time on purpose?" Maya's eyes widened as she began to understand. A honeypot. "Exactly," Cale said. "We create a new ghost. Not a bank, but something else. Something that looks like a command and control server. The nerve center of our entire operation. We'll make it look like I made a mistake, that I retreated to my primary base of operations. It's a trap, Nix breathed. It's the only play we have left, Kale said. We build this server, load it with fake data, false plans, and most importantly, a single encrypted file. We'll label it Kale ID. It will be the most heavily fortified file on the server. Thorn will see it as the ultimate prize. He won't be able to resist. And when he tries to access it, Maya asked. He won't get my identity, Keel said, a grim smile touching his lips. He'll get a virus, a tailored piece of code designed to do one thing, destroy his network from the inside out. We'll burn Ethelred's entire digital infrastructure to the ground. We turn the hunter into the hunted. In the Ethelred Tower, Elias Thorne isolated a single frame of security footage. It showed a woman in a hoodie, her face partially obscured, talking to the executive assistant. He zoomed in on her eyes. There was a flicker of intelligence there, a focus that didn't belong to a temporary office worker. Run her face through every database we have, Thorne instructed Marcus. Employee records, contractor lists, even social media. Use predictive algorithms to age the photo up and down. I want to know who she is. On it, sir, Marcus said, his voice filled with a new sense of urgency. Thorne leaned back, confident. He had found the thread. Now, all he had to do was pull it. He knew Kale's type. He was arrogant, a perfectionist who would never abandon his creation. He would try to build something new. And Thorne would be watching for the first digital brick to be laid. Back in the basement, the plan was already in motion. Nix's fingers flew across her keyboard, her earlier despair replaced by the intense focus of a master craftsman. She was building the digital cage, a perfect replica of a secure server, complete with fabricated network traffic and dummy files. Maya was pacing now, her role in the plan weighing heavily on her. He'll trace it back here, she said. The moment he touches the server, he'll have our physical location. No, Kale said, pointing to a complex diagram on Nix's screen. The server won't be here. It will be hosted on a decentralized cloud network, bouncing between nodes all over the world. The physical location will be untraceable. But the access point, that's the key. He turned to Maya. Thorne is looking for a person. He has your face, or a partial version of it. He'll be watching for you. You're going to be the one to activate the server. You'll make a single, unencrypted connection from a public location, a library, a coffee shop. It will be a breadcrumb, leading him right to our honeypot. It's suicide, Maya said. It's a diversion, Kale corrected gently. He'll focus all his resources on you, on finding you. He'll think he's closing in on Kale's lieutenant. While he's chasing you across the city, he'll see the server light up. He'll think he's found the mother lode. He won't be able to resist taking a bite. Nix finished the encryption on the fake Kale ID file. It's ready, she said. The payload is a beast. If he executes it on his network, it will be catastrophic. Good, Kale said. He looked at Maya. You're the key to all of this. Are you in? Maya stopped pacing and looked at Kale, then at Nix. The fear was still there, but it was now mingled with something else. Resolve. She had been a victim of Ethelred's greed long before she joined this team. This was personal. I'm in, she said. When do I leave? Not yet, Kale said, his gaze turning back to his laptop. A new alert was flashing. It was from the same dark web forum. Someone had replied to the bounty post. Thorne's net was already tightening. The post contained a name from Maya's past, an old alias she hadn't used in years. They didn't have much time. The name hit the screen like a gunshot. Echo. It was an alias Maya hadn't used in nearly a decade, from a time before she'd learned how to truly disappear. It was tied to a defunct activist group, a piece of her history she thought was buried forever. He's fast, Kale said, his voice devoid of emotion. He closed the laptop. The plan changes, now. There was no time for debate, no room for hesitation. Thorne wasn't just hunting them anymore. He was actively closing in, his digital hounds sniffing at their door. Maya, go. Now, Kale commanded, his tone leaving no room for argument. The library on 5th Street. You have 20 minutes to get there and make the connection. Nix, prep the server for immediate activation. The moment Maya connects, we make it visible. Maya didn't need to be told twice. She pulled a beanie over her hair, swapped her hoodie for a nondescript jacket, and slipped a pair of cheap glasses from her pocket. In 30 seconds, she was a different person. She gave Kale a final, sharp nod and vanished up the basement stairs. leaving the scent of damp earth and fear in her wake. Elias Thorne's phone buzzed. It was Marcus. "We have a match, sir. A 92% probability. The alias is Echo. Real name is Maya Jensen. Former cyber activist. Dropped off the grid 8 years ago. She has a record." A slow, predatory smile spread across Thorne's face. "Not a ghost after all. Just a woman with a past. Where is she now?" "We're pulling traffic cam footage, cross-referencing with her known associates. It's only a matter of time." "Time is the one luxury she doesn't have," Thorne said, ending the call. He turned back to his main monitor, refreshed the deep web scanner. He was waiting for the other shoe to drop. Cale would know his operative was compromised. He would panic, and panicked people make mistakes. As if on cue, a new alert flashed on his screen. It was a faint blip on the global network map. A new server coming online. It was heavily encrypted, but the architecture, the signature, it was unmistakable. "Got you," Thorne whispered. The public library was a cathedral of silence. Maya moved through the aisles, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm against her ribs. Every face seemed to be looking at her, every cough a coded signal. She found an empty carrel in the far corner, shielded by shelves of dusty history books. She opened the cheap laptop she'd bought that morning, her fingers trembling slightly. She took a deep breath, forcing the fear down, replacing it with cold focus. She was the diversion, the lightning rod. Her role was simple, but it was the most important part of the plan. She opened a browser, navigated to a seemingly innocuous website, and typed a single character into a hidden command line. She pressed enter. On her screen, a message appeared, "Connection acknowledged." She closed the laptop, stood up, and walked away without looking back, leaving the device on the table. It was a piece of hardware she would never touch again. She was just a ghost in the machine, a fleeting presence in a sea of strangers. He took the bait. Nix's voice crackled in Cale's earbud. "Server is active, and they're already knocking on the door." In his sterile office high above the city, Elias Thorne watched his team work. "Breach it," he ordered. "I want everything." His analysts were a blur of motion, their fingers dancing across their keyboards. "Outer firewall is down. We're in the main directory. It's a command and control server, just like we thought. There are dozens of files here, operational plans, financial records. It's a gold mine." And then one of them stopped. "Sir, you need to see this." On the main screen, a single file icon was highlighted. It was labeled Keel ID. Thorne felt a surge of triumph. This was it, the final prize, the identity of the ghost who had dared to challenge him. "Can you decrypt it?" he asked. "It's the most heavily encrypted file I've ever seen," the analyst replied. "It will take time." "Step aside," Thorne said, pulling up his own chair. He cracked his knuckles. This was personal. He wanted to be the one to open it. He entered a series of master keys, leveraging Ethelred's immense computational power. The progress bar for the decryption began to crawl across the screen. 1%, 5%, 10%. Then it stopped. "What's wrong?" Thorne snapped. "I don't know, sir. The encryption is fighting back. It's evolving." Thorne frowned, a flicker of doubt crossing his mind for the first time. He tried a different approach, a more aggressive algorithm. The progress bar jumped to 50%, then 99%. It held there for an agonizing second. Then the bar filled. The file was open. But instead of a document with a name and a photo, a single line of text appeared on the screen. "Executing Prometheus." Suddenly, every monitor in the room flickered. The lines of code on Thorne's screen began to reverse, to rewrite themselves. The elegant web of data he had been monitoring dissolved into chaos. "What's happening?" Marcus yelled from across the room. "We're losing everything. The main servers are wiping themselves." Alarms began to blare throughout the Ethelred Tower. The lights flickered and died, replaced by the red glow of emergency lighting. Thorne stared at his screen, now displaying a single, mocking message. A brushstroke out of place. The realization hit him like a physical blow. The server, the files, the identity, it was all a lie. A beautiful, perfect, irresistible lie. He hadn't found Cale's base of operations. Cale had led him into a digital gas chamber, and he had locked the door himself. He hadn't been hunting a wolf. He had been led to the slaughterhouse. Chaos was a symphony, and Elias Thorne was its unwilling conductor. The Ethelred Tower was a tomb of red emergency lights and blaring alarms. His pristine network, his digital kingdom, was a smoking ruin. The Prometheus virus wasn't just deleting data, it was systematically corrupting the very foundations of their system, turning billions of dollars of assets into digital gibberish. "Get it offline," Thorne roared at his terrified analysts. "Sever the building from the internet, physically pull the cables, do it now." He watched as his team, usually composed and efficient, scrambled like panicked children. They were pulling plugs, shutting down servers, trying to contain the plague he had so willingly invited into their home. But it was too late. The virus was already in their bones. He turned away from the carnage, his face a mask of cold fury. The digital battle was lost. But the war was not over. Cale had made a mistake. He had sent a person with a face, a person with a name. He pulled out his secure phone, his knuckles white. "Marcus," he said, his voice dangerously low, "forget the network, it's gone. Redirect all physical assets, all of them. I want you to contact every private security firm, every off-book intelligence contact, every dirty cop in our payroll. I don't care what it costs." He paused, looking out the window at the city below, a grid of light and life that now seemed to mock him. "Find Maya Jensen, find Echo, and when you do, bring her to me." In the damp silence of the basement, Nix turned off the newsfeed on her laptop. The reports were calling it a catastrophic system failure at Aethelred Capital, speculating about a foreign cyber attack. They had no idea it was a targeted act of digital vengeance. "It worked," Maya said, her voice flat. The relief she should have felt was absent, replaced by a profound sense of dread. "For now," Cale replied, his expression grim. He was packing a small go-bag, only the essentials. "Thorne is wounded, and a wounded predator is the most dangerous kind. He's lost his digital teeth, so now he'll bite with physical ones. He's coming for you, Maya, and he won't stop." The victory felt hollow, poisoned by the knowledge of what was to come. They had won the battle, but the price of winning was to become fugitives in the real world, forever looking over their shoulders. "So we run," Nix said, her voice barely a whisper. "We disappear." "We split up," Cale corrected, his tone final. "Together we're a target. Apart, we're just ghosts. Each of us gets a new life, a new identity. We never contact each other again. We never look back." The finality of his words hung in the air. The team that had planned the impossible, that had built a bank in 12 minutes, was dissolving into nothing. "But the money," Maya started. "The rest of it, it's just sitting there." "It's poisoned fruit," Cale said. "Trying to get it now would be suicide. Thorne will be watching every crypto exchange on the planet." He zipped up his bag and looked at them, his colleagues, his partners in crime. "But I wasn't going to leave us with nothing." He nodded to Nix. She opened a different program on her laptop, one that looked like a simple budgeting spreadsheet. She typed a command, and 3 lines of text appeared. "Account 1, funded. Account 2, funded. Account 3, funded." "While Thorne's entire security team was watching our honeypot server," Keel explained, "I was using the distraction to move a fraction of the funds, not through the main wallets, through a different tunnel I built for just this occasion. A contingency." "How much?" Maya asked, her voice hushed. "Enough," Keel said. "Not millions, but enough to buy a new name, a quiet life, a fresh start somewhere far away. It's not the jackpot we planned on, but it's justice, and it's freedom." He slid a small, encrypted data chip across the table to Nix, and another to Maya. "The keys are in there. Don't access them for at least a year. Let the world forget." There were no more words to say, no grand speeches, just a shared, silent understanding of the sacrifice they had all made. They had challenged a god, and while they had burned his temple, they were now damned to wander the earth. Maya was the first to leave, pulling her hood up and melting into the city's shadows. Nix followed a few moments later, her laptop case held tight, her face a mask of stoic resolve. Cale was the last one left. He stood in the center of the empty room, the silence pressing in on him. He looked at his own data chip, the key to a life he hadn't planned on, a life of anonymity, of always looking back. He dropped the chip into a glass of water on the table, watching it dissolve. He wouldn't be using his share. His freedom was different. It was the knowledge that he had won, that he had struck a blow that would be felt for years to come. He walked up the stairs and out into the night, not as Cale the architect, but as a nameless, faceless ghost. He had created a bank that existed for 12 minutes, and in doing so, he had erased his own life forever. The cost of victory was total. And as he disappeared into the anonymous crowds, he knew the hunt was far from over. It had just begun. 1 year. For 1 year, the name Maya Jensen was dead. In her place was Anna, a quiet, unassuming archivist at a city records library. She lived a life of beige walls, organized filing cabinets, and the polite nod of coworkers who knew nothing about her. It was a perfect, silent existence. A life bought with a fraction of a digital fortune. Until the Tuesday it broke. It wasn't a phone call or a shadow in the alley. It was smaller, more intimate. Sitting on her desk, next to her lukewarm coffee, was a single, perfectly folded origami crane. It was made from a page torn from a library book, a book on ancient cryptography. No one else in the library would have noticed. But Maya noticed. It was her and Cale's old signal. A private joke from a lifetime ago. It meant one thing. I see you. Her blood ran cold. She didn't touch it. She didn't breathe. She scanned the room, but every face was familiar, every movement mundane. She finished her shift, her hands trembling so badly she could barely shelve the books. The crane was still on her desk when she left, a silent paper sentinel. A threat. The next day, her friend and coworker, a cheerful woman named Sarah, was in tears. Her personal laptop had been wiped. Not just a virus, she explained through sobs. It was a digital ghost. Someone had remotely accessed her machine, erased every photo, every document, every email, and then formatted the hard drive, leaving behind a single, blank text file named Echo. Maya felt the floor drop out from under her. It was a message, a brutal, unmistakable demonstration of power. Thorne wasn't just looking for her. He was targeting the life she had built, piece by piece, burning it to the ground to smoke her out. That night, Anna died. In a nondescript motel room across town, Maya Jensen packed a go-bag she prayed she would never need. Cash, a burner phone, 3 passports, none of them with her real face. She had one call to make. The meeting was set in a crowded fish market at dawn. The stench of salt and raw fish was a nauseating perfume. Maya saw Nix first, her face hidden by a scarf and sunglasses, her posture radiating paranoia. "You shouldn't have come," Nix hissed, her eyes darting through the crowd. "He found me," Maya said, her voice low. She didn't waste time. She pulled the origami crane from her pocket and placed it on a wet crate between them. Nix flinched as if it were a scorpion. "Where did you get that?" "My desk, yesterday." He wiped Sarah's laptop, Nix, left her a message. "My name." Nix's face hardened. "He's not using Ethelred's resources. This is personal. Off the books. He's a private hunter now." "Running is pointless," Maya stated. "He'll just find me again. Or you." Nix was silent for a long moment, the market's chaos swirling around them. "He's right," she finally whispered. "We can't outrun this. He has more money than God and a grudge the size of a planet. He'll turn the world upside down to find us." "So what do we do?" Maya asked, the desperation she'd been fighting finally breaking through her voice. "How do we fight a ghost?" Nix looked at her, her eyes dark and serious. "We find a better ghost. We find the one who taught us how to disappear." The name hung between them, unspoken but deafening. Cale. The architect who had vanished without a trace, sacrificing his own share to become a true phantom. Finding him was supposed to be impossible. That was the point. "He erased himself completely," Maya said. "No digital footprint, no financial trail. It's like he was never born." "Thorne is looking for a digital trail," Nix countered, a spark of her old, brilliant self returning to her eyes. "That's his weakness. He's a hunter of data. So we don't look in the data. We look in the world. Where would a man like that go? Not to a beach, not to a cabin in the woods. He's a strategist. He'd want to be somewhere he can observe, somewhere he's anonymous but connected. A hub." Maya saw where she was going. "A place where no one stays for long." "Exactly," Nix said. "A place where being a ghost is normal. We're not looking for a man hiding in a crowd. We're looking for a man who is the crowd. We need to find the center of his web." The hub. The idea was a spark in the darkness. A place where a man like Cale, a creature of pure logic and observation, could hide in plain sight. Not a city, but a node, a transient point on the global map. "He wouldn't go to Silicon Valley," Nix mused, her fingers tapping a nervous rhythm on her knee. "Too corporate, too much data, too many eyes. He wouldn't go to a known tax haven either. That's the first place anyone would look." They were in the back of a stolen cargo van, parked in an industrial district, the city's hum a distant vibration. The van was their new war room, their sanctuary, their prison. "So where?" Maya asked, cleaning a disassembled pistol with methodical precision. She was no longer just an archivist. The old instincts were coming back, sharp and cold. "A place where identity is fluid," Nick said, pulling up a world map on a hardened laptop. "A place built on anonymity. A data haven. Somewhere like Praia in Cape Verde, or Berlintown in Berlin. Cities that attract the ghosts of the world. Hackers, expats, people running from something." Her fingers flew across the keyboard, cross-referencing flight manifests, encrypted forum chatter, and dark web market activity. She wasn't looking for Kale's name. She was looking for patterns. Anomalies. "He'd need a purpose," Nix continued, her eyes scanning the streams of data. "He wouldn't just sit on a beach. He'd be building something, a new project, a new system. He's an architect. He has to create." She ran a search for encrypted data clusters originating from their list of potential hubs. Most were dead ends, Tor nodes, VPN services, standard noise. But then, a hit. A small, unassuming server cluster in Lisbon, Portugal. It was registered to a shell company that dealt in logistics and data analysis. But the data flow was wrong. It was too clean, too efficient. And it was running a custom-built operating system. An OS with a digital fingerprint Nix recognized instantly. It was a distant cousin of the code Kale had used to build Meridian Bancorp. "It's him," she whispered, pointing to the screen. "It's not his signature, but it's his handwriting. He's there, in Lisbon." Suddenly, a new window popped up on Nix's screen. It was an alert from one of her automated security sweeps. A red warning box. "Active network probe detected. Source, private mercenary firm." "Thorne's dogs," Maya said, looking up from her pistol. "They found our van." "They're triangulating our position now," Nix said, her voice tight. "We have minutes." "Can you wipe the system?" Maya asked, already moving to the back of the van. "I can," Nix replied. "But they'll know we were here. They'll know we're on the move." "Then let's give them something to chase," Maya said, pulling a small device from her bag. It was a signal duplicator. "I bought this from a dealer in Marrakesh years ago. It can mimic any cell phone signal. I'll set it to my old burner's ID. Toss it out the window on a passing truck. They'll follow that signal, thinking it's me." "It might buy us an hour," Nix said, already initiating the system wipe. The progress bar crawled across the screen. "An hour is all we need," Maya said. She cracked the van's back door just enough to see the street. A delivery truck was rumbling past. She took a deep breath, calibrated the device, and tossed it into the truck's open cargo bay. It landed with a soft thud. She closed the door just as Nix's screen went black. The system was wiped. The van was just a metal box again. "They'll be looking for a woman traveling alone," Maya said, her voice all business. "We can't fly together. We can't even take the same route." "I'll book a flight to Madrid," Nix said, pulling a new, clean laptop from her bag. "From there, I'll take a bus to Lisbon. You'll go to Paris first, then a train. We'll meet there in 3 days, at the Praça do Comércio, at noon." Maya nodded. "What if he's not there? What if this is another trap?" "It's not a trap," Nix said, her eyes gleaming with conviction. "It's a signature. He left it for us. He knew we might need to find him someday. It's a doorbell, and we just rang it. They had a destination, a name, and a hunter on their tail." The game had changed again. They were no longer just running, they were converging. Elias Thorne stared at the wreckage of the cargo van, his face impassive. The local police were swarming the area, but they were just scenery. They were looking for stolen goods. He was looking for ghosts. "Report," he said into his headset. His voice was calm, betraying none of the fury that churned beneath the surface. "The signal led us on a chase through the city's shipping district, sir," his lead mercenary, a man named Riker, replied. "We cornered it in a warehouse. It was a duplicate, a cheap signal repeater. They played us." "I know," Thorne said, walking around the van, his eyes scanning for details the police would miss. "She's clever. Maya, the archivist. She thinks tactically, but she's predictable. She'll run now. She'll split up from her tech partner, Nix." He knelt down, picking up a tiny fragment of shattered plastic from the ground. It was from a custom-built keyboard, the kind Nix preferred. "They wiped the system, but they were in a hurry. They left behind micro-trash. Riker, get your forensics team on this. I want to know every component, every serial number, every supplier, cross-reference it with global purchases in the last 24 hours. And the women, sir? Riker asked. Thorne stood up, his gaze sweeping the horizon. They're running to their architect. They think he's their salvation. They're wrong. He's just the final piece of their puzzle. Find their travel patterns. Find their destination. They're leading us right to him. He wasn't just hunting anymore. He was herding them. 3 days later, Maya stood in the vast, sun-drenched expanse of the Praça do Comércio. The Lisbon air was warm, thick with the smell of the sea and roasted chestnuts. Tourists milled about, their faces masks of carefree joy. It was a perfect place to disappear. She spotted Nix near the central arch, pretending to read a map, her eyes sharp and alert. Maya approached, her own posture relaxed. Any sign? None, Nix said, not looking up from her map. But the server cluster is still active. It's in a building 2 blocks from here, a data storage company called Atla. So we just walk in? Maya asked, scanning the crowd for any sign of a tail. It's not that simple, Nix said, finally lowering the map. I've been monitoring the building's network. The server cluster is on a closed, air-gapped network. There's no remote access. To get to it, you have to be physically inside the building, in a specific server room. A key card? Maya guessed. Worse, Nix said, a biometric scanner, and the access log for that room is empty. No one has been in or out in 6 months. Maya felt a familiar chill. So he's not in there. No, Nix agreed, but he left something for us. The server cluster isn't his base. It's a post office, a dead drop, the doorbell I told you about. They spent the rest of the day casing the building. It was a modern glass and steel structure, security guards at every entrance, cameras covering every angle. Getting in would be a heist in itself. That night, in a cheap hotel room overlooking the square, Nix worked. The building's security system is top of the line, but it's commercial. It has a central vulnerability, a maintenance window. Every night at 2 a.m., the system reboots its camera network. For 90 seconds, the cameras go dark. 90 seconds to get to a biometrically sealed server room? Maya said, shaking her head. Impossible. Not if we don't have to open the door, Nix replied, a new light in her eyes. The access log is empty, but the system still has to record a failed attempt. It's a legal requirement. I can't fake a successful entry, but I can create a fake failed entry. A system glitch that will force the door to momentarily unlock and relock to reset the mechanism. How long will it stay unlocked? Maya asked. Maybe 5 seconds, Nix said. And we'll only have one shot before the system flags it as a major security breach. So one person goes in, Maya stated, and they have 5 seconds to get whatever Kale left and get out. And they have to do it in the dark during the camera reboot, Nix finished. It was a suicide run, a high-wire act with no net. At 1:45 a.m., they were in place. Maya, dressed in black, was hidden in an alley across from the building's service entrance. Nix was a block away, her laptop connected to a powerful Wi-Fi booster, her fingers poised over the keys. Camera reboot in 60 seconds, Nix's voice whispered in Maya's earbud. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. She was the point person, the one who would run into the lion's den. 30 seconds. Maya took a deep breath, focusing on the door. The path was clear in her mind. Across the street, through the service door, down the hall, left, second door on the right. 10, 9, 8. Heck, Maya tensed, ready to sprint. 3, 2, 1, go! The world went black as the cameras died. Maya shot across the street, a shadow in the night. She reached the service door. It was unlocked. She slipped inside, her movements silent and swift. Down the hall, left, second door on the right. The biometric scanner glowed a menacing red. Nix, now, she hissed. In her earbud, she heard the frantic tapping of keys. Glitch initiated, door unlocking, now! A soft click. The red light turned green. Maya shoved the door open and lunged inside. The room was cold, filled with the hum of servers. In the center of the room, on a single, isolated rack, was a small black metal box. It had no wires, no lights. It was just there. She grabbed it. It was heavy, solid. As she turned to leave, the door slammed shut, the lock engaging with a deafening thud. The lights flickered on. A voice, cold and metallic, echoed from a speaker in the ceiling. It was a voice she hadn't heard in a year, a voice she never thought she'd hear again. Hello, Maya, Kale's voice said. You failed the test. Maya's blood turned to ice. Kale, she breathed, her voice echoing in the sterile, humming room. "The box you're holding is a pressure plate," the voice continued, calm and detached. "The moment you removed it, the room sealed. The test wasn't about getting in. It was about what you would do when you realized you were trapped." "What are you talking about?" Maya yelled, her anger overriding her fear. The average operative would have tried to brute force the door, or called for backup. But you looked for the exit, the flaw. You're still thinking like a thief, Maya. That's good, but you need to start thinking like a hunter. There was a soft click. The door beside her swung open. Maya didn't hesitate. She grabbed the heavy metal box and sprinted out of the room, her mind racing. She found Nix in the alley, her face pale with worry. "What happened? I lost your feed. The whole system went into lockdown." "He was here," Maya said, her chest heaving. Or his voice was. It was a test. As if on cue, a black, unmarked sedan pulled up to the curb. The back door swung open. A man sat in the shadows, his face obscured. "Get in," Cale's voice said, this time from inside the car. Maya and Nix exchanged a look of grim determination and slid into the back seat. The door closed and the car pulled away from the curb, merging seamlessly into the late-night traffic. The man in the shadows turned to face them. It was Cale. He looked older, thinner. His eyes had the same intense, analytical focus, but they were shadowed with a wariness that hadn't been there a year ago. "You could have just sent an email," Maya said, her voice dripping with sarcasm, "and risk Thorne intercepting it?" Cale replied, his voice a low murmur. "I had to know if you were still you, if you were still capable, and if you were being followed." "We're clean," Nick said. "We lost them in Paris." "You're never clean," Cale countered. "Not anymore. Thorne isn't using corporate resources anymore. He's using his own fortune. He's hired private military contractors, ex-CIA, ex-MI6. They don't play by the rules." "We know," Maya said, her voice hard. "He found me. He's burning our lives to the ground." "I know," Cale said softly. "I've been watching." The revelation hit them like a physical blow. He hadn't just disappeared. He had been observing them from a distance, a silent guardian angel, or a puppet master. "You son of a bitch," Nix whispered. "I had to be sure," Cale said, his gaze unwavering. "I had to be sure that when I brought you back in, you were ready for what comes next. Running is over. Hiding is over. It's time to end this." The car drove through the winding streets of Lisbon's old town, finally pulling into a quiet, hidden garage beneath a centuries-old bookstore. Cale led them not to a high-tech command center, but to a dusty, cluttered workshop filled with tools, blueprints, and half-finished mechanical devices. It smelled of oil and old wood. "He's not just hunting us," Cale continued, picking up a strange-looking device from a workbench. "He's building something. A private intelligence network. A surveillance state, for one. He's using his fortune to buy data brokers, blackmail politicians, and create a system so pervasive he'll be able to find anyone, anywhere. He won't just be able to find us. He'll be able to find you," he said, looking at Nix. "And your family in Prague. And you," he said, turning to Maya. "And the professor who gave you your first scholarship. He's mapping our entire past, looking for leverage." He placed the device on the table. It was a sleek, silver cylinder about the size of a thermos. "This is why I brought you here," he said. "This is how we fight back. We're not going to steal his money. We're not going to destroy his company. We're going to steal his network. We're going to take his private intelligence agency and turn it against him." "What is it?" Maya asked, her eyes fixed on the cylinder. "It's an EMP," Cale said. "A targeted electromagnetic pulse. Not a city killer, a scalpel. One blast from this and every piece of unshielded electronics within a 50-foot radius is fried forever. Servers, hard drives, phones, all of it, turned to paperweights." He looked at them, the fire of the old mastermind returning to his eyes. "Thorne's network hub is here in Lisbon, a server farm in a renovated wine cellar outside the city. It's his fortress. It's where he stores all his leverage, all his power, and we're going to burn it to the ground." 1,000 miles away, in a sleek office in Geneva, Elias Thorne ended a call. A small smile touched his lips. "They're in Lisbon," he said to the empty room, "and they just led me right to Cale's doorstep." He turned to his monitor, which displayed a live satellite feed of the bookstore Cale had just entered. The hunt was over. The final phase was about to begin. The air in the workshop grew thick and cold. It wasn't just the dust. It was the sudden, crushing weight of the trap snapping shut around them. "He knows," Nix said, her voice flat with certainty. "He's been tracking us. This whole thing, this workshop, it's a dead end." "Of course he knows," Cale said, a strange calm settling over him. He walked to a bookshelf and pulled on a leather-bound copy of The Art of War. The shelf swung inward, revealing a hidden passage filled with weapons and sophisticated electronics. "I was counting on it." Maya stared at him, her expression a mixture of disbelief and fury. "You led him here? To us?" "I led him to a location I control," Cale corrected, his voice sharp and precise. "Thorn is arrogant. He thinks he's the hunter, that he's been hurting us. He'll come here with his mercenaries, expecting to corner a few scared rats. He'll bring his best people. He'll want to watch the capture himself." He pulled a tablet from the hidden room, its screen displaying a live schematic of the surrounding streets. Red dots were converging on their position. "They're here now," Cale said. "But they're not going to find us. They're going to find a workshop filled with enough incriminating evidence to frame a dozen terrorist cells. A parting gift." "So we just run again?" Maya asked, her hand inching toward her pistol. "No," Cale said, his eyes gleaming with a dangerous light. "We don't run. We let him take the bait. The workshop isn't the trap, it's the stage. The real target is Thorn himself." He pointed to the tablet, zooming in on a vehicle approaching the bookstore. It was a black, armored van. "That's him. He's here to personally oversee his victory. He thinks he's already won." "So what's the play?" Nix asked, her fear being replaced by the familiar thrill of the impossible. "The play is the MP," Cale said, picking up the silver cylinder. "But we're not taking it to his server farm. We're taking it to him. His network is impressive, but it has a single point of failure: him. All his data, all his contacts, all his power, it's all stored on a single hardened mobile server that he carries with him, a digital crown jewel." "He'd never let it out of his sight," Maya said. "Exactly," Cale confirmed. "He'll bring it here, to gloat, to personally access my captured network and find the final piece of the puzzle. And when he does," he held up the EMP device, "we'll turn his crown jewel into a paperweight. We won't just destroy his network. We'll destroy his proof, his leverage, his entire reason for being. We'll leave him with nothing but an empty room and a grudge." The plan was insane. It relied on Thorn's ego, on him walking right into their web. It was the most dangerous gamble they had ever taken. "Let's move," Cale commanded. They slipped through the hidden passage, emerging into a network of tunnels beneath the city. It was a maze of darkness and dripping water, a world that belonged to ghosts. Cale moved with unerring confidence, leading them to a sewer grate that looked up directly into the alley behind the bookstore. "From here we watch," Cale whispered. "We wait for him to get comfortable. Then we make our move." Minutes later, they saw him. Elias Thorn, dressed in a tailored suit, walked into the alley flanked by two heavily armed mercenaries. He looked confident, in command. He was the predator who had finally cornered his prey. He entered the bookstore through the back door. The trap was sprung. "He'll head straight for the workshop," Cale predicted. "He'll want to see my workstation for himself. He'll connect his mobile server to the local network to try and decrypt my files. That's our window." Maya checked her pistol. Nix readied a tablet, her fingers hovering over the virtual trigger that would activate the city's traffic control system, creating a gridlock to prevent any reinforcements from arriving. "He's connected," Nix whispered, her eyes locked on a network monitor. "I can see his server signature. He's in the system." Cale looked at Maya. Now, they moved with silent, deadly efficiency. They climbed out of the sewer, shadows in the narrow alley. Cale took the lead, the EMP device in his hand. They slipped back into the bookstore, the sounds of Thorn's victory celebration echoing from the workshop. They found him exactly where Cale said he would be. Thorn was standing in front of the main workbench, his mercenaries standing guard, a small silver briefcase open on the table beside him. Wires ran from the briefcase to Cale's computer. "Having trouble, Elias?" Cale said, his voice echoing through the workshop. Thorn spun around, his face a mask of shock and rage. "Cale, I should have known you'd have a final trick." "This isn't a trick," Cale said, raising the EMP device. "It's an ending." Thorn's mercenaries raised their weapons, but it was too late. Maya and Nix emerged from the shadows, their own weapons trained on the guards. It was a standoff. You think you can win? Thorne sneered, his hand hovering over the briefcase. Even if you kill, my network will release the information I have on you. Your families, your pasts, it will all go public. You'll spend the rest of your lives looking over your shoulders. I'm not going to kill you, Elias, Cale said, his finger on the trigger of the EMP. I'm going to erase you. He activated the device. There was no explosion, no sound, just a silent, invisible wave of energy that washed over the room. Every screen went black. Every light died. The mercenaries' electronic sights flickered and died. Thorne stared in horror as the lights on his precious mobile server went dark, one by one. His entire empire, his life's work, was being erased in a single silent moment. It's over, Cale said, his voice the only sound in the sudden, suffocating darkness. The darkness in the workshop was absolute, a void broken only by the ragged sound of Thorne's breathing. It was the sound of a god who had just seen his temple turn to dust. You ruined everything, he choked out, his voice a raw, guttural thing. I gave you back what you took from others, Cale's voice replied, calm and steady in the blackness. Nothing. The mercenaries were disoriented. Their night vision goggles were useless, their comms dead. They were just men with guns in a dark room, and the fear was palpable. You think this is the end? Thorne snarled, a new dangerous edge to his voice. He fumbled in his pocket, his hands shaking with rage. You think I'm a fool? That I'd trust everything to a machine? There was a soft click. The faint green glow of an old-fashioned LED illuminated his face. He was holding a small, ruggedized USB drive. This is the real key, he hissed. Everything. The names, the leverage, the proof, encrypted, of course. But my lawyers have the password. A dead man's switch. If I don't check in every hour, it all gets released. Your names, your faces, everything. Maya didn't hesitate. In the green glow, she saw the glint of steel in Thorne's other hand. A small pistol. He wasn't going to be taken alive. He's bluffing, Nix whispered. No, he's not, Cale said, his voice flat. He's that kind of man. So we kill him here, Maya said, her own pistol rising to meet the green glow. And trigger the dead man's switch, Cale countered. No, we don't win by becoming him. Thorne laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. You see, you're trapped. You can't kill me and you can't let me go. I built my entire life on having the final move. That's where you're wrong, Elias, Cale said. You built your life on data, on leverage. But you made one critical mistake. You underestimated the people you were hunting. He nodded to Maya. The courier. Maya smiled, a cold, predatory thing in the darkness. While you were busy watching us, we were watching you. We know about the courier, a disgraced journalist you blackmail. He's waiting for your signal at a cafe on the Rua Augusta, or he was. An anonymous tip about a bomb threat cleared the place out 10 minutes ago. The police are having a very friendly chat with him right now. The color drained from Thorne's face. The green glow of the USB drive seemed to dim as his confidence crumbled. You're lying, he whispered. Am I? Cale asked. Check your phone. Oh, that's right. It's a paperweight. Thorne's last gambit had failed. He was just a man in a dark room with a useless stick of data and a gun he was too afraid to use. His empire was gone. His leverage was gone. He was nothing. It's over, Elias, Cale said, his voice filled with a final, chilling finality. You're just a ghost now, and no one is ever going to hear you scream. They didn't kill him. They didn't have to. They left him there, in the darkness, surrounded by the wreckage of his own ambition. As they walked out, Maya made one last call to the local police, reporting a suspicious individual with a weapon in the bookstore, an anonymous tip, a final, poetic piece of justice. They met Nix at the edge of the Tagus River, where a small fast boat was waiting, its engine idling quietly. They boarded without a word, casting off into the pre-dawn mist. As the city of Lisbon faded behind them, Nix finally broke the silence. So what now? We have no money, no identities, we're back to square one. Cale looked at Maya, then at Nix. A rare, genuine smile touched his lips. No, he said, we're not back to square one. Square one was running. Now, we're free. They had nothing, but they also had nothing left to lose. They were ghosts together, sailing into an unknown horizon, and for the first time in a very long time, that felt like a victory.